All right, Rachel. The only problem with doing a review like this, is I have to take the video fairly early in the week, and that puts me in a position where, it puts you in a position where you haven't been exposed to a lot of things we do, so you haven't had a chance to really improve some things. So you really see in this videotape where you were at the beginning of the week, and doesn't really show the video of all the improvements that you might have made during the week. So I'm just going to deal with it in the context that it's in, as in terms of what I see, and talk about that, and then give you some tips and ideas on which direction to go and how to kind of solve some of the issues that I see, and then I'll splice in some of the video that I showed you in camp so you have it as a good reference going forward. So we just start with the butterfly. Again, the main component in butterfly is rhythm and timing. Everything's about rhythm and timing, and for the most part there's a decent undulation, there's a decent rhythm going through here, but there's a bit of a stall right at the end of the arm stroke. You can see right in this area right here there's a bit of a stall, and might not see it to your eyes, but it is very clear to my eyes that there's a bit of a stall. Everything else actually I think is fairly good. You've got a fairly reasonable general rhythm that I think will come together once you solve the stall, and this is how you need to solve the stall. I'm going to back it up just a little more. So as you look at as you set your anchor position, that's the main thing that we need to work on. You can see the setup of the anchor position is fairly wide, but the position of the elbow relative to the hand, how you establish your anchor position, is more about pushing your body up, and you take a breath on this, but it's more about pushing your body up than pushing your body forward, and you don't hold on to the water very well. There's a bit of as you slide to the inside, you slip the water, you don't hold your anchor position, and then your hands kind of slip backwards. So it's like, I described swimming as like running on ice. This is like being in a position where you put pressure on the ice and the foot slips and it comes back towards you, and your body has to really jerk and regain its balance. But it's the same in butterfly. Your hands from this position to this position are basically sliding. They're not holding anything, so you end up in a position where you have that loss of rhythm. So if we look at it from the side, you can see, and again this is a breaststroke, so it's kind of, it looks worse than it really is, because now you're going to push your hands down in trying to get your body up. You can see that the curve in the spine ends up curved in the wrong direction. Remember, I had this on the whiteboard. I said what you don't want to do is end up with a curve this way, because it basically causes you to sort of kind of sink in the water in that direction, which you don't want to do. You really want to have your spine curved that way, because ultimately you want to go through the water in that direction. Let me just show you really quick the kind of anchor that I'm looking for right here. So this is really the anchor position that you're looking for. If we kind of forward your tape, you see the extension, the chest press, all this stuff. I think that looks good. It's not too deep, but as you set your anchor position, you really need the elbows to be up above the hands in this position. So that's really the anchor position that you're working towards. It's very similar to the one you see in the picture. If I actually play that movie, you'll see the same thing. So setting up that anchor position is kind of like where I described butterfly. Where do you put your hands when you climb out of the pool? It's about where you put your hands when you climb out of the pool. But you're coming from where you're younger, and you tend to not put your hands into a situation where there's a lot of pressure on them, because you don't have the strength to hold that pressure. So you compromise by dropping your elbows and causing issues that really limit what you can do, and then you lose your rhythm, and you don't have the kind of rhythm that you're seeing right here. So if I go back to the butterfly and we watch it again, and I'll just slow it down a little more, the basic makeup of it is good. So you're not getting too deep in your press. There's a decent press with a flare to the outside, but you're just establishing that anchor position. That really has to improve, and you really have to work on really establishing a way where you can vault your body over it. You can see again, you push down to get your head up. So best drill for you will really be this, actually a rhythm skull, as your base drill. And again, keep it nice and narrow within the shoulders, so you get a good feel for how deep you want to press your shoulders, because you don't want to take your shoulders a whole lot deeper than you are when you do this rhythm skull. Again, you're creating that V on the way out in the sculling action. And where this athlete ends right here, right, this position would be that vaulting position. That's where you want to be as you set that vaulting position. She just brings her hands to the inside, but the main drill for you is going to be the rhythm skull to an impulse. So rhythm skull into an impulse, and put yourself in a position where you get a pretty good idea of exactly where your hands should be, like you're climbing out of the water. I would suggest that when you're really working on this, that you put fins on, so you can give yourself a little better leg kick right in here, so you can get over the top of that vault, and it'll help you get a much better sense or feel for what you're doing. I'd also, when you work on your butterfly, especially when you're working on your skills, initially I'd work with a snorkel on. That way you don't have to worry about the breath. You can just work on the rhythm, the timing of the rhythm, setting that anchor position the right way, and vaulting over the top of it, thinking in your mind that you're vaulting over the top of that anchor position. As we work in the backstroke, alright, so there are a couple things here that I think most times at your age there are more issues with the leg kick. The leg kick here is actually fairly good. There's a little pause in the middle of it, but for the most part the leg kick is not too much knee based. It is reasonably coming from the body. So basically the way your legs kick right now, the pattern that they're kicking, the amount of bend that you see in your knees, that's good. It needs to come more from your core. Right now it's not coming from the core as much as it could or should, and the more you get it into your core, the better off you're going to be, because you'll have a better driving force behind you. Remember when we put you into streamlined position on land, streamlined flat back position and kicking your legs? Well, that's something that's really essential to backstroke. And the good thing about it is that you can do that land-based exercise, and it will help you increase your strength and your endurance and your connection to your core. And as you build up strength and endurance on land, it will make you much stronger in the water. And your backstroke, the propulsion of your legs and the balance that you have in the water will be very good. Right now the balance is actually fairly good. I'm not unhappy with the balance. It could get a little bit better. The legs could get a little better. But here's the real main culprit here, is how you establish this anchor position. And I'd like to blow this up a little more, but essentially you got to think of your whole forearm, and I'm just going to draw it from the side. So you got to think of your whole forearm, and there's your hand. So here's your elbow. This is back into your shoulder right here. So you got to think of this entire surface area. Oops, that's not good. Let me back up on that. So you want to think of this entire surface area as the tool that you're going to use to grab a hold of that piece of water. Right now you're trying to grab a hold of it with your hand, and you're not being very successful. In fact, instead of your hand being sort of straight up and down this way in this position, you've got your hand pitched over to the side. So you can see right now your hand is pitched over to the side. It's tilted to the side, and that means it's just sliding. It's just basically going to be sliding through the water. So instead of grabbing a hold of a piece of water up in here, set up that anchor position, and I'll get into this a little more, and then kind of connecting it into your side right in here, and getting that side crunching action, and just driving, applying pressure in that direction, and then sort of driving your body in the opposite direction. It's going to be hard because you don't have that anchor position that you need to do that. So if you see your hand, you can see it sliding. Then eventually you grab a little bit of piece of water, but it doesn't work very well. On the other side, you can see the arm is a little too straight, it's too stiff. Remember what I said happens when your arm's a little too stiff and too straight? It becomes very unstable. So the hand's in a good position on that side, but the arm is too straight. On this side, again, you can see that thumb. So you can see right now the thumb's pitched over. Really the reality is you're trying to do this all with your hand. You're grabbing the water with your hand. You're not connecting into the side crunching action. So here's what you need to do. As I just described already, I think you can improve your leg strength on land with regard to working on your leg kicks and your connection to your core and how you manage everything from your core on land. For you, probably double arm backstroke would be the best one, and I'd do that. I'd put a pull buoy between your legs so you don't have to worry about your leg kick, and I'd work the skull to double arm impulse, and I'd really concentrate on putting yourself in a position right here where you think about using this whole tool right in here with your hand pitched the right way. So right now your hand, I'm going to draw it a little bigger. So your hand is pitched, this thumb down here, so you're sort of pitched this way, which means it slides through the water, and it really should be pitched this way. This is not a great drawing tool, but you know what I'm saying. So this way you have a nice flat surface to apply pressure to that anchor position, whereas this surface tends to slide through the water and doesn't do a whole lot for you. So when you get into that double arm backstroke position, it puts you in the ability to, again, sort of feel it, to grab that piece of water and apply pressure to it, and you're not far away from it. Honestly speaking, if you get a much better sense how to side crunch, grab a piece of water, establish that anchor position, and side crunch side to side to side, I think it'll be very helpful. If I go back to this backstroke that you saw, again, let me just speed it up a little. So you want that sort of that elbow position, and when you get yourself into that skull to impulse, make sure when you do your double arm backstroke that you're really concentrating on the elbow joint angle that you have. So you want to see yourself in this angle, which is just above 90 degrees, but it's real important to that side crunching action. Again, that angle, again, you have that basic angle in your right side, so your brain understands the angle, but you just don't have the pitch of the hand, and your hand sliding. Basically your hand is slide, doesn't hold the water very well all the way up to that point, and then it catches the water. So double arm backstroke, I think, is essential to what you're doing. Work on your leg kick, and then you can always go to that head up freestyle, because it really drives you into where you need to be with your putting your hands into the, put the emphasis on your legs, make it all connected to the core a lot better, get the hand entry in the right position, and when you do your double arm backstroke, you can really just see yourself grabbing that water the right way, not having that slide. So that you don't have that slide right there. Again, right here, see it again, that slide where you don't hold the water very well. So breaststroke, again, moving a shape through water, and you're really trying to get your head down and in line. Everything in terms of what you're trying to do is good, but let's really look at some of the things that you can improve on. I'm just looking at your leg kick. There's decent flexibility in your knee joint, and when you look at this, your knees aren't too wide. You don't have great flexibility in your ankle joint. You can maybe work on that if you want to become a better kicker, but your knee joint, everything here looks normal. Everything looks fairly good. So in terms of your biggest propulsive force, which is your leg kick, I think everything sets up very well. But the shape of the object that you're propelling through the water or pushing through the water is not set up to be really economical, or you're creating a little too much drag. And so this is your most propulsive phase, so that when you finish that leg kick, bang, right there, that's your most propulsive phase. You take a look at this shape that's going through the water, you can see that your feet are a lot lower and your hands are higher, and that's not necessarily unusual. Your hands, rightly so, should be moving up towards the surface. That's correct. But if I really drew the shape, you can see you've got your toe, you sort of got your boots on, the back's a little curved, the head's sticking way out of the line, and then your hand going through, sort of that shape's going through the water. And that's not a really good shape. You really, remember, if I come back and I'll just do a picture of it, so you look at the shape in terms of the picture, that's the shape you're trying to get. This is the line that you want to have underneath the water. Now the only way you get there is you make sure that when you get into this line, number one, your head's not necessarily too deep, it's slightly too deep, The reality is that your head should be probably at this level in the water, somewhere in there, so a little shallower. Your arms should be pretty much on this plane, pitching up towards the surface. And then the rest of the body should be just this line behind you, just this perfect line back here, and obviously with a really good toe point. So the main problem with your breaststroke is you're too deep below the surface of the water, and it's almost impossible for you to get into the kind of line that you need to get into. So why are you too deep? Well, even in this position, and I'm going to go back, let me show you this rhythm skull first. So we'll go back and show you the rhythm skull. So this is the foundation, and this is what you have to do. You have to be able to do this drill in your sleep, and be very comfortable with the rhythm and the timing you do it at. Make sure your hips, see, press your hands to the outside, press, chest press, so hips, chest press, hands, hips, chest press, hands, that rhythm, and be very good at that rhythm. When you become very good at that rhythm, then your breaststroke will begin to improve. So if you look at this, and I'll just let it run all the way to the front. Actually, I can just bring it back there right now. So if I look at this stroke, you can see the hands here about maybe 3, no more than 4 inches below the surface of the water. The skull to the outside, as you begin to establish that anchor position, you can see they're actually coming up towards the surface as you establish that position that you're going to grab hold and then vault your body forward. In this case, she's just sculling, so she's going to that position and sculling back. But understanding where that is and the fact that it's at the surface is really important. When you take that and go from here and you jump into what the breaststroke actually looks like, and this is something I showed you again, it's basically the same. Extend out front, so as you skull to the outside, and that V pattern, and it's out and up, it's to establish this anchor position, it's very close to the surface of the water, and then vault your body over that piece of water. Vault forward, vault throw, drop your head between that line, and then see those hips. Again, see the hips come in behind. See the hips come in behind. See, the rhythm is the same. Doesn't change. If I come back and do the rhythm skull with a kick involved, let me just put it right here. So if I do the rhythm skull with the kick involved, again, rhythm skull, see the hips. Do it again. Skull, skull. See the hips again. Hips. You've got to nail that spine down the line. So if we come back to your breaststroke, and again we look at it, that should be about here. Clear that off. So as you look at your arm stroke, again you see the praying hands, and now you know that can't happen. You can't have your hands in a praying position, because this is why you end up way too deep below the surface of the water. So right now your hands are almost off at least 10 inches below the surface of the water. They should be right about, nope, that's too deep. They should actually be right about that level, right in there. Get rid of that. Not very good. So sort of in this and going up in this direction. So about no more than 4 inches below the surface level of the water. So because you end up too deep, even though you come up towards the surface, and that's right, what you're doing, you have to do that. And your body instinctively knows you have to do that because you're way down below the surface of the water. But it's still the same basic pattern. And you want to skull to the outside, set this anchor position, but when you set that anchor position and you drive off that anchor position, your hands are too deep, and then praying position. So here's what I think. This would be a great drill. This is something we can't do here, but you can do this at home. Put a pair of fins on and just do a flutter kick back there with your fins on, and just work on getting your hands in shallower. So make sure that they're palm down, they're shallower, they're just below the surface of the water, and then just follow that rhythm skull pattern. Pop them over the top of the water, back into that slot in front of you. I think when you get a much better sense of how to put yourself in a position where you're much shallower in this in your technique with regard to how you set up the front, I think everything else is going to work for you. I think the rhythm is going to be a lot easier to do. It'll flow a lot better for you. So as far as your breaststroke is concerned, become an expert at the rhythm skull. Become an expert at putting the kick into the rhythm skull. So a rhythm skull kick into a rhythm skull one stroke cycle, and then use your fins to do a better job of getting your hands into the right position and extending them forward, recovering or throwing them forward at the depth with the palm down to set everything up the right way. Alright, flip over to freestyle. So we worked on freestyle, so we're going to look at see with that head position, and for the most part it's actually very good. You can see there's a little bit of movement in your head. You do lift it up to take your breath, and you know now that when you do lift it up to take your breath, you're going to be in a position where you're going to cause an imbalance. So there are little bits and pieces where I see those feet going to sort of a closed joint position, and that's just part of being in that position where these kind of things happen. Generally speaking, your leveraging action with your arms is fairly good. It's deep. It's a very strong position. Your left arm is actually a little better than your right arm, but that right arm is more a result of what I saw with your breaststroke. It sort of lost balance. But for the most part, your leveraging action is fairly good. Your legs, to some degree, like your backstroke, can get a lot stronger. But the bottom line here is, as you get a lot stronger with your legs, it puts you into this position where you're more balanced in the water. You've got that good propulsion behind you, and everything's working. So just a reminder, you're looking to keep, not that one, so you're looking to create this sort of teeter-totter effect in your body, and you want it to be right at the surface of the water. You don't want it to be going up and down. You want it right at the surface of the water. Anytime you take your eyes off that perfectly down position, so right now your eyes are sort of drifting out here, instead of locking them down towards the bottom of the pool, you're going to create a little bit of imbalance in your body. So you can see that sort of closed joint. So if you take a look at your right leg kick, and you see that how much that ankle has gone into a closed joint position, that's not so much a kick as it is drag. You really shouldn't see the legs go past a position when they finish the kick of something that looks like that. That's not a great foot, but you know what I'm saying. To some degree, you shouldn't go into the closed point position you're in. As you take this breath and you're going to breathe to the side, you're peering just a little forward, and instead of being in a position where you don't lose balance here, you cause your body to lose balance. Just that little bit has caused your body to lose balance, and the net result right here is you'll see that the right hand will kind of catch the fall, and this left foot is going to see that left foot going to board that closed joint, that little closed joint right there, that kick right there. So that shows me you're losing balance. You can see your next right kick. You see it's a normal kick right there because it didn't need to balance you as much. It became very normal, but you've still got your right hand kind of pushing down against the water in order to keep your body up in the water, and it's not being used as a leveraging stroke. It's not really powering you forward, not doing anything to power you forward. So you pretty much lost half of that stroke. Get back, get your head in line. That position is actually fairly good, not perfect. You can still, again, remember that you want to almost feel like you're swimming downhill. So if you have that point, that's sort of that fulcrum point, which is your lungs, your center of buoyancy, which is your lungs, and you've got your head just in front of that center of buoyancy right about here, you want to feel like you're creating a little bit of pressure downward this way. So when you do that horizontal float that we worked on the day one, and you try to get yourself in a position where you can sort of lay out in the water in this perfectly horizontal line. Always picked the wrong tool, sorry. This perfectly horizontal line. And you're basically working to be able to rotate a 360 around that line. Well, the more you can manage the pressure that you need at the front end in order to keep your legs up at the back end, that translates to what you're doing in freestyle. And if you have really good balance in the water, and essentially this is the key, when you take your breath, you don't take your breath by rotating your shoulders, you actually take your breath by rotating your hips. When you do that, everything stays in balance, and you can get back to these anchor positions. And if you take a look at this left hand, it's actually very strong. It's a very powerful anchor position. It's actually connected into the body, so you can see your body's rotating against that anchor position, and I think that's very good. So there are a lot of good things that are working for you if you just learn to balance your body a little better. The right hand anchor position isn't as strong as the left. It's a little like your butterfly. Instead of it being out in this position like that, you're just like butterfly. You're letting the elbow position go, and that you need to work on it. And when you go to a rhythm skull, to an impulse, you can work on that. You can either do it with a kickboard underneath you, or you can put a pull buoy between your legs, so you can just focus on your arms. But the key is do a little better job of setting up that anchor position with your right hand. For all I know, you look like you might be left-handed because your left hand is much stronger than your right hand. Clean up the way you manage your line and your balance when you take your breath. I'm just going to, real quickly, I'm going to bring this video in just as a reminder. This is really the optimum sort of where you want to be with regard to the line, balance in the water. That's the optimum anchor position. Your right hand, you want your right hand to sort of look like this right hand. You want to be able to have the elbow in that position. If you think back, remember that you're applying a pressure all the way across from your fingertips all the way up to your forearm to your elbow joint, and you're basically rotating this body against that anchor position and just essentially accelerating yourself down the pool. And as you watch that guy, see he rotates against that anchor position, which is pretty much what you were doing on your left side. So your left side is very good. If you clean up your right side, your freestyle is going to improve significantly. So we go back to this last sequence here. So the sequence in freestyle, the kick is good, but I'd still kind of spend some time with that sculling to impulse so you can work on your anchor position. I definitely spend some time working on your 6-speed kick to add your arms into that 6-speed kick, because I think that's very important to do, because it helps you again work on the balance of the body and put the arms into the legs. And then the great part about the sport of swimming is sometimes you get a 2-for-1 deal, and in your case you get a 2-for-1 deal, because the work you do for your backstroke with your leg kick, with that streamlined flat back leg kick position, that translates really well to freestyle kicking as well. So it's a 2-for-1 deal. So work on your balance, hold your posture in your line, increase the strength in your legs, and then do a better job with your anchor positions, and I think your freestyle will really take off. It'll be really good. So I've tried to give you bits and pieces of each stroke. I think the mainstays in any stroke: become a better sculler, become better at sculling, period. Doesn't matter what stroke it is, work on sculling. If it's rhythm sculling when you work in fly and breaststroke, or it's just flat sculling into impulses with freestyle and even backstroke, then get better at that, because it's the best way to get a feel for the water and set up your impulses very well. Set them up in the right position. After that, leg strength is important. And then, like I said, the framework is there. The framework is there in all your strokes. You just got to become just a bit better at understanding how to set your impulses, maintain your balance, and propel your body forward down the pool. My advice, Rachel, would be to not try to do all of it at the same time. And don't go to the pool and say, I'm going to work on all my strokes today. I think it'd be better if you said, okay, for this week I'm going to work on freestyle. And if you go to the pool and say, okay, I'm really going to work on my 6-speed kick, and every time I come off the wall, I'm going to get my kick going, and then I'm going to put my arms into my legs. And just make that the priority for the practice, and maybe the priority for that whole week, so you become much better at doing that. And then add your anchor positions, and the next week maybe you work on anchor positions. But the point is that focus on one stroke. I would recommend you maybe focus on that same stroke for a week and then rotate through your strokes. But if you try to do all the strokes in one session on one day, I think it just muddies the water, and you won't progress nearly as quickly as you want to. So have a think about that. Enjoyed having you in camp. I hope you had a great time, and hopefully we'll see you somewhere down the road. All the best. Roll Tide.